All right, good morning. Welcome in, Baseball and Coffee. I messed up the thumbnail somehow. I tried to get both things going on the simulcast, so now the thumbnail's down. But you see the live. We're on both MLB and on my channel. Everything seems good. So we'll just keep rolling with it, and we'll fix the thumbnail later. Today we're going to do NL West. NL West needs happy Black Friday to all those who celebrate. We don't really. It's a scary day for me. Too much out there at the stores. So maybe Cyber Monday, something like that. But had a good Thanksgiving over here. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving where they are. And let's see what we got here in the chat. Fortnite Kid. I don't know. We got a lot of random stuff in here. But good morning, everybody. All right. Let's get it going today. Let's go see what we got. Oh, Dylan Cease. That's what we're going to talk about first today before we get into the NL West. Let's check our Winter League standings for the moment. 22-5 for Aguilas. Wow, that is a ridiculous record. So I don't even know what to say about that. Did they play last night? Don't look like they played. A lot of teams had Thanksgiving off, I guess. I guess Dominican Winter League is off. Looks like Venezuela played, Mexico, a couple other places. Anyway, all right. So first thing we should do is we should look at Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease goes to the Blue Jays, $210 million, 7 years. I mentioned before, I don't really like to talk too much about the numbers. I mean, they are what they are. Everybody's going to compare that. Everybody wants to be an at-home economist or whatever. But the bottom line is this is a very interesting play. You can see the Baseball Savant rankings. This is part of the reason why he's getting paid so well. He's been basically pretty consistent in terms of expected ERA, and a lot of it's driven by this whiff percentage and this K percentage. 95th percentile whiff, 89th percentile K, and that's in a down year. So, you know, the models are going to love this guy. 29 years old, huge strikeout rates, whiff rates. The stuff is going to grade out well, and the velocity is holding. The spin is holding. He even picked up a little bit of extension this year. So those are the main selling points of why you would want a Dylan Cease. Basically, the machine's going to say he's got a great chance to continue to be effective because he gets a lot of strikeouts, and strikeouts are the safest form of outs. So I'm not surprised that somebody ponied up, and I'm sure staring at the models, the predictive models, he was looking awfully good. Me personally, I had him ranked as my 4th best starting pitcher in this market, and there's a number of reasons why, and we can go through that in a minute. But I'm also intrigued to the spot he went to. He went to Toronto, which is an interesting fit. No, we'll get into that in a minute. But let's go look at his percentile rankings over the years. What's good? What's bad? What are the green flags? What are the red flags? So the green flags is, look, every year since 2021, he's been above average by expected ERA, which seems like not a big deal just to be above average, but above average is good in baseball. Even average is good. And also, it's important to realize that starting pitchers don't usually rank as high on this, even good ones. Most of this percentile is taken up by, most of the red percentiles are taken up by 1-inning relief pitchers. Expected batting average, outstanding. Expected slugging, outstanding. Expected ISO, expected on base, all good things. Here's where some of the 2 negatives come from. Number 1, too many walks. He's always been below average in walks. This year was no exception, 20% walk rate. And then the barrels. So a lot of times when you live and die with a 4-seam fastball and a gyro slider, which are his main 2 pitches, you're going to get a lot of whiff. You're going to trade off whiff for super hard contact. And let me explain why I believe that happens. All right, so this is the baseball bat. Baseball bat comes through the zone. I mean, yes, there's varying different angles, downward angle, upward angle, flat angle, but for the most part, it comes across in a horizontal way, right? So when the ball's coming, you're trying to get the barrel. Let's say this is the barrel right here. You're trying to get this part of the bat on the ball. When the ball has mostly vertical situation, you have no problem measuring where the barrel is in terms of east-west. Like, you're not going to miss it off the end as often or get jammed as often for weak contact. You're going to barrel it, but the question is, are you going to get on plane? Are you going to be under it? Are you going to be over? I mean, are you going to be under it? Are you going to be over it? Right? Exactly. When you're an east-west pitcher, you have a little better chance of making contact, but you're going to get either jammed or off the end more, and that's going to be weak contact, which is going to result generally in better batted ball outcomes. Now, if you're a four-seam pitcher, you're relying for the most part on getting over the barrel, and when they do hit it, they hit the very, very bottom and they pop it up for easy outs. But it's usually a trade-off when you pitch this style. You get a lot of whiff, get a lot of confusion of what's coming. The pitches will tunnel well, guys will miss them, but when they connect, they tend to be more on the barrel, and that tends to do more damage. So it results in home runs and extra base hits and generally louder contact, and that's the game that Cease plays. He's got a lot of whiff rate, but he gives up damage. So that's the good and the bad. You look at his first pitch strike rate, it could be better. He was at 60% this year, which is solid, but for a pitcher who thrives when a two-strike count, I'd like to see that number get even higher. That would be a good thing going forward. But also, let's talk about some of the mechanics of how he gets his outs. 51-degree arm angle, so high arm angle. So he's got a nice high arm angle here. And you can see the fastball release right over the top with not a whole lot of horizontal movement. We'll go up to the movement chart here, and you'll get an idea. Everything coming straight through this center line are his main pitches, and really, he's a two-pitch pitcher. He's a four-seam pitcher with good ride, with a little bit of perceived cut to it, and then he's got this unbelievable bullet gyro slider that comes in around 89, 90, generates swing and miss all day, but that's really it. He's got a curveball, 8%, which is the 2 speeds down option, and he's tried to figure out some ancillary pieces, sinker, sweeper, changeup this past year. That has continued to kind of morph year over year. Let's see where he's at in 24. Try to throw a bit more sweepers. 23, try to boost up the curveball percentage a little bit. 22 is a curveball as well, but essentially he's a two-pitch pitcher with a little hint of a third pitch. However, he is going to a team that knows a little bit of something about high slot right-handed pitchers. For example, Kevin Gausman and Trey Savage for 2. Those guys both are four-seam pitchers with splitters. Cease has a much better breaking ball than either of those guys, but those guys have much better splitters. I know Savage has a little bit of the reverse slider, which is a good pitch, but Cease has got a way better slider, I would say. But the question is, can he learn a little something from these guys in terms of splitters, in terms of changeups, in terms of how to operate in the north-south plane and pick up some different skill, with this type of approach? And at the moment, the rotation's pretty dang stacked for the Blue Jays. You got Gausman, you got Cease, you got Savage, the rookie phenom, Barrios, who we didn't see in the postseason, but he's been a horse for them for a bunch of years. Hopefully the elbow's all right. And then they really lucked out with Bieber picking up that option when he could have definitely went out in the market and got more money, right? So this is what they're rolling with. I don't see them making any more additions unless they're gonna trade out of this group, which they definitely could now. And then they can make some ancillary moves, try to use this as a function of boosting up their team in other ways, whether that's finding another bat, because I know Bichette left and they're looking to replace that bat, or whether that's beefing up the bullpen. They have options here because they have a lot of starting pitching assets, which is a good place to be. Now, from a contract standpoint, this is also an interesting strike timing-wise because Gausman and Barrios are getting towards the end of their situations, I believe. So let's just check. Here's Gausman. He is under contract for one more season. So considering he only has the one more year, this is sort of like a preemptive strike on the market. We want this guy to be here for the foreseeable future, knowing that Gausman's probably out after next year. And then what about Barrios? I feel like he's probably getting a little bit closer as well. So they go ahead, and I'm sure, obviously, this guy was number one on their board as they struck mighty early, and they paid more money than I think most people thought he would get. Barrios can opt out of the contract after next year. So we'll see how that goes. He does have 24, almost 25 million coming to him each of the next 2 years. So he might be there, he might not. But interesting little strike here. It's not what I expected them to do. I thought if they were going to go for a starter, I thought maybe Framber Valdez, like on somebody on the left side of the equation, or maybe go for the big trade, go for the Scooble. That's more of what I expected, but nope, they go for Cease. They go for the big whiff guy. Like I mentioned, the models definitely like him. I had him as the number 4 pitcher. My rankings, and I think I still have them in here. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, my rankings overall for free agents. Let's see. I had Framber ahead of him. I had Imai and King. So I had Cease 4th. I had King, Imai, and Valdez ahead of him. And for varying reasons, I think Imai's is fairly straightforward because he's younger. So I like the fact of his age, and I like some of the improvement I've seen with him, and I like some of the odd pitch shapes that he has. And I also didn't think he was going to command this type of money given the bidding process as well. So all that kind of formulated having him ahead of Cease. And then the other 2 guys, Kinger and Framber Valdez, a big part of it was the contact nature of their game aging better. If you're going to put a lot of miles on a guy in terms of pitching deep into a contract 5, 6, 7 years, at some point you got to expect the strikeouts will start to go down, and you have to have a contact-oriented way to get outs and a way to be efficient, and you can't just be relying on nothing but punchies, and that's where a guy like Framber comes in, 97 percentile ground ball rate, and that's equated to a much more consistent level of performance over the past few years relative to Cease in terms of runs. And you know what the game's about. It's about giving up runs or not giving up runs. And then Michael King, the reason why I like him so much, and I'm a little biased because I know him really well, for one thing, the numbers have been really, really strong when he's been on the mound the last 3 years, but a lot of it is this very unique East-West arsenal with a +4 seam, which most people don't have. So I think his profile is a little unique. He's a big-time pitch-to-contact guy when need be, but also knows how to get strikes. This is the last time he was healthy. You see this here, 99th percentile average exit velo, 97th percentile in hard hit. So for me, and I'm thinking about giving a lot of years to a player, of course I like strikeouts, but I'm looking for ability to add pitches to your arsenal, feel. I'm looking for you to be a contact pitcher, preferably on the ground, just because that limits slugging. And again, Cease, what does he not get? He doesn't get ground balls. It's all fly balls and it's strikeouts. They're fine. You can dominate when you're at your top level doing that. We've seen it. But will he be able to continue to evolve? Will he make some Justin Verlander type improvements as he goes? Because really, that's sort of my comp for him in a way. Big-time fastball, high release, really good slider. Can he add in the curveball, making it better? Can they work on the changeup? One thing that's been going on with Cease over the past few years is this very odd changeup. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you what I mean. His changeup, 77.3 miles an hour. It's just a weird pitch. Doesn't have hardly any different movement than the fastball, but he really downshifts the speed 20 miles an hour off the fastball. So he went for a complete... When guys do this, it's because they're not creating any type of grip with their hand where things just zip down in a weird, kind of unexpected movement with seam shift effects. You're just relying on spinning it the same, trying to hide it with your delivery, and then have the ball kind of float in there 20 miles an hour slower, which can work, but clearly it wasn't effective enough for him to stick with it. So I think that's the number one area where you'll see some improvement, if there is any, is either a changeup, whether it be a kick change grip or a split grip that maybe he borrows from Gosman or Savage or somebody like that. That would be the area of growth I would expect. But no matter what, he's going to be dealing with this north-south style of pitching, and it's going to be imperative for him to, number one, hold his velocity, and number two, find a way to be a little less predictable as time goes on. All right, so you look at his pitches over the last few years. Well, I want to go to movement. All right, here's the movement. So 18.5 inches of vert on the four seam is ridiculously high. That's very, very good. So that's what drives his fastball being so good. And then we saw the slider was the bullet. The weird thing about that changeup, like I mentioned with the rise on it, 17.9 inches of vertical break on a changeup is super weird. super weird. And I know he's been trying to fix this, and if he can get to the third pitch, then maybe I think there's a good chance that this contract could age gracefully, and he could be, a guy who kind of shifts into a different mode in a few years. But right now, Toronto's going pedal to the metal for this next year. They feel like this guy's a big-time strikeout pitcher, and that's what they're banking on. They're banking on the consistency of the fastball and the slider, the speed, the whiff rate. And you go back to 24, I mean, 25 run value on a slider is absolutely insane. There was one year, 35 run value in 2022, which was the top pitch in the sport. So really, he rode the slider to a $200 million contract. It's not really the fastball. The fastball's great, but it's really the slider at the end of the day. And so we're going to see how this plays, how this works out. It's going to be interesting to watch. I mentioned I probably wouldn't have been the team to sign him as the top guy. I had him as the number 4, but time will tell. Time will see who's right here. And it's going to be interesting, him in the AL East, facing these lineups, going through it with the Jays, and kind of how it all evolves. All right, let's see here. 4-seam fastball. It's crazy. He only has 89% active spin, and yet he gets 18.5 inches of vert. Imagine he got even higher on that number. He would be up to the very high, very, very tippy top of the leaderboard, I would say, looking at that. All right, now back to the Blue Jays and what this all means. So they just spent a ton of money. I mentioned now they have 5 real dudes in the rotation, all right-handed, but 5 real dudes, one guy that's probably gone after next year in Gausman. But still, this is a heck of a rotation headed into the year, and does give them options now if they want to pivot out of this and trade to, to improve their team in different ways. The bullpen could definitely use a little more firepower. And then obviously there's the Bichette-sized elephant in the room with this club as well. It's funny, you look at their starting lineup and it looks fine. But I expect them to do more. I think this team's emboldened by their run this past year. And I don't think they're done. I think the fact that they've been able to lock down 2 pitchers early on bodes really well for them to be opportunistic the rest of the way. And let's not forget how rich and how wealthy the Rogers company is that owns the Jays. So that's one thing to point out. All right, let's get in the chat for a minute, and then we'll go ahead and do the NL West today. With this Cease signing and all the rumors, do you think the Jays may have gone to Bieber and asked if he was willing to take the 1 year for a chance at a pseudo super team? I don't really know what the conversation was like with Bieber. The reason why I'm so stunned about it is because he showed well. The combination of showing well and having no qualifying offer attached to you is very exciting if you're a starting pitcher with a Cy Young on your resume going into free agency. And at his age, I thought Bieber was a lock for a 3 or 4 year deal, probably with some opt-outs in there. Like, I think even if you wanted to re-up on a 1 year deal, and that was the goal, 1 year with, get ready for next free agency, he probably could have got more than the $16 million. So it just goes to show you either A, he fell in love with the situation on the field, or they fell in love with the situation off the field, or both. And that's kind of where it went. But I don't know. I'm fascinated by that. And I think at some point he'll probably speak on it. So we'll see what he has to say. Robbie Ray-esque Cy Young incoming for Cease, courtesy of Pete Walker. So a lot of people have a lot of faith in Pete Walker. It is true. Robbie Ray, Cy Young over there. That was a very cool season, 21. And the Blue Jay starters have tended to be very good, and they seem very happy over there. I'm curious what this means for Bassett and Scherzer now, if they're going to maybe come back. But it's going to be interesting to see. I think Bieber took his options so quick, they probably didn't even have a conversation. I was just stunned, but I was literally shocked by it. I had him penciled in to be one of my top 20 free agents probably. So I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to understand. For a guy with a cutty 4-seam, is it easier to add a sinker than a cutter? So many guys seem to opt for the sinker in this case. Yeah, so in this case, when you're talking about Cease, we'll go back to his page for a second just to demonstrate this a little bit. Like when this is your movement, your overall movement profile, and your 4-seam is way over here, close to the middle line, but it has really good vert on it, and it's one of your 2 main pitches, there's a little bit of a fear that if you go and try to bring a cutter into this equation, that what will end up happening is what will end up happening is, like, right now you're doing a pretty good job of getting behind the ball, but with a cutter, as you start to, like, learn to be slightly supinated on release, that type of action can then creep in and mess up your four seam a little bit. And all of a sudden you're cutting your four seam and you're losing some of your spin efficiency on your four seam. So it depends on the player. This isn't a golden rule for anybody, but there have been a lot of players that I've played with or seen across the league that had elite four seams, got a little skittish about their four seam losing maybe a little velo, and they said, you know what, I'm going to add a cutter. And next thing you know, that four seam got way worse. And now they've kind of gone backwards as a player. So I think there's a little bit of a concern in that spot. With the sinker, one thing that's interesting about the sinker is that in theory, in this situation, you don't really need it to be an elite pitch. Like Cease is never going to have like a 5 vert, 18-inch to the right sinker. All he has to do is have enough separation from the four seam that it gives him a way to either get in on the hands or freeze somebody with a comeback pitch or something like that. Like that has to be part of the equation. Hey, buddy, do you want to say hi? Come say hi. What you got? What you got? You got a plane?
Yeah.
Can you say hello?
Yes.
Merry Christmas. All right, go back, baby. So, you know, when you have the sinker, you want to put it on this tree?
Yeah.
You can. It'll probably fall. I help you. You ready? How's that? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I got to do my show. Love you. Yeah, I just so with the sinker, I mentioned, since you don't have to make it as good. Let me go back to the screen here. Since you don't have to make it as good, here's his current sinker. This isn't a good sinker movement wise. It's a 15-inch vert by 10.6 to the right. Like, it's not good metrically, but I don't hate this pitch because it's different enough from the fastball, from the four seam. So you're looking for the right opportunities to use it, and that would be more of the calculus there, is that you can grab a sinker grip, rip it with your four seam stroke. Try not to think about turning it all like a cutter, and maybe you end up with another option and it doesn't nuke your four seam effectiveness. Now, maybe not, but because it's different for every guy. But that's what I've seen a little bit in my career from people trying to get prematurely. They prematurely go to the cutter, and it kind of messes up their four seam a little bit. I also agree that he's a good splitter candidate. I think nowadays they should be able to find a grip, whether it's a splitter or a kick change, to really have the ball drop. That should be definitely doable here. So he's at 51-degree arm angle. What's Gosman at? Because Savage is a little different. That's like even higher. Gosman's at 37, so Gosman's lower. So that's a little bit of a different calculus. Let's look at Bieber. Bieber's at 39, so he's lower. And then we all know about Savage at 64. So, okay, so his arm angle actually is a little unique compared to both of these. He's over the top. Savage is insanely over the top. So it's a little bit of a different... It's not like he can borrow exactly from any of these other guys. He'll learn a little bit maybe about thought process with things, maybe driving some more balls downhill. One thing that's interesting about Cease is he doesn't have a ton of extension, I don't believe, right? He's gotten a little bit more. He got up to 43% this year, 43rd percentile, 6.4 inches of extension. But I'm pretty sure that number's just come up a bit. Yeah, 6'3" last year, 6'3" the year before, 6'1" back in 2022. So maybe the adjustment is shortening the stride up a little bit, getting a little more angle, and then you can work downhill a little more with a couple different off-speed pitches. Bring the bottom of the zone into your game with your four seam and not just the top. And now all of a sudden you have a little more variety to your game, even though you haven't done a whole lot different with your pitches. Maybe it's something smaller with in terms of stride to create a little bit of a different angle. All right, we got a question here in the chat. At what stage do pitchers try to add a new pitch? Like you said with Skeens, it's hard to mess with anything without throwing everything out of whack. Is that the case with all pitchers? See, with Skeens, he already has such a huge arsenal that he's already kind of learned it all. And I trust him to add things. The reality is nowadays it's a lot easier to add than it used to be. In the old days, it would be, hey, try this grip, try that grip, go throw, see what you think, see what your partner thinks. It was all very subjective. Whereas now it's like we know exactly what grips produce what movement out of which arm slots. They can go ahead and pair your slot with a grip. You can go in the bullpen and throw them, and it's giving you instant feedback of the movement, and they're giving you grades on everything in instant real time, so you know if it's good or bad metrically, and it's just a lot easier to eliminate bad reps and to get closer and closer and closer to a usable pitch really fast. Now, the pitfall with this, and I've talked about this a lot, this is another injury pitfall. I know that I harp on getting guys hurt a lot, but another pitfall is when a team or a player gets a shiny new toy, whether it be a cutter or a splitter, especially a splitter or the cutter, because those are a little bit unique. You're coming through either slightly supinated but holding on and throwing as hard as you can like a fastball, which is a little bit of a new stroke, or you're splitting open your fingers pretty wide, which is putting a little bit of a different strain through your flexor. Nothing that you can't train for and be totally healthy with. But the point is, when you just learned it, and then all of a sudden the metric says, hey, this is your new best pitch or your new second best pitch, and the recommendations are like, throw it, throw it, throw it. Then you got a guy who goes out there and he's throwing 40, 50% of a new pitch that his arm's not ready for at max velocity, and that's sketchy. That's how a lot I've seen injuries happen in the last few years. So as great as it is that we can learn pitches fast, the time to really do it, if you can help it and you're not desperate in the season, is in the off season, and then you kind of bring it in slowly and train your body to use it, and then you kind of deploy it out throughout the year. Unfortunately, we live in a instant gratification world now. You can get any song you want on your Spotify now. You don't gotta wait. You don't gotta wait for the radio anymore to pop your favorite song on. So it's the same with the pitch. Oh, I want this new pitch. I watched some guy on the TV throw it. I'm gonna learn it. Ooh, I like that. I'm obsessed with it now. This is who I am now. So pitchers do this a lot, and I think it's a little overblown. We already had a whole episode on the Mets. You might have seen I said some things that weren't very well received. But I think the Mets are far from over. I think the Nimmo trade was just the very, very beginning, and I think they're going to do a good job, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all goes. All right, so that's my thoughts on Cease. It's going to be fascinating to watch this. It really is. Blue Jays are gearing up big time. This AL East is going to be a showdown. Red Sox are making moves. We talked about the Sonny Gray. Yankees are going to do stuff. Baltimore, I've heard they're in the market for a lot of people. So I'm excited for this AL East season next year. It's going to be a blood feud, and you know it, and I love it. And I love it a lot. All right, let's move on to the NL West. That's what we are here for today. And again, we just go in the order in which the Fangraphs has them. Ooh, that was me clicking on things last night on Colorado. They're last. All right, let's go to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Are our first team, 80-82 this past year. We're in the hunt pretty much most of the year. Did not end up getting across the line. They had very disappointing season on the mound, which is crazy because they had three of the best hitters in the league in the first three spots. So they're in a good spot, but they're in a tough division, and they have to make some moves, and I know they have some payroll concerns. So they're an interesting team to try to figure out, so let's try to figure them out. Here are the free agents. Zach Gallen, who has the qualifying offer attached, who I love. I have him right behind Cease. So I had him as my fifth best pitcher, but now that would move him up a spot now. So I think he's very desirable. I know he has the QO, but I think he's going to be good. McCann signed back there as the backup. Ildomara Vargas, a free agent. Jalen Beeks, and Kendall Graveman, who we haven't seen a lot of with some injuries the last few years, but used to be the real deal. All right, here's the go-to lineup at the moment, and it's unbelievable, the top three. Perdomo, Marte, and Corbin Carroll, right? Perdomo literally was like in the top 5 in WAR this year. Ketel Marte is the best second baseman in baseball, and Corbin Carroll is one of the top handful of outfielders in the game. These guys have speed, they have contact, they have power, they have it all. This is an incredible top three. This is a top three that is only really bested by the Dodgers, to be honest with you. So that's really good, and we'll see if they trade out of that at all, but that's an insanely good top three. Gabriel Moreno, catcher of the future, catcher of the present, really good throwing catcher. He's right now in the 4-hole. Pavin Smith's been there for a bit. Lefty. Blaze Alexander. Adrian Del Castillo's the guy who's supposed to hit. Jordan Lawler was their big-time prospect who came up and did nothing, went back down. He's trying to figure it out. And then Alec Thomas. Oh, thanks, my love. She says I'm her top free agent, so that's nice of her. But yeah, I mean, you gotta like the beginning of the order, but the bottom of the order is holding this team back quite a bit. They do have some speed elements. They've generally been a good defensive team, but I don't know. They're very top heavy in the lineup. All right, let's look at the rotation. Ryan Nelson, who had actually the #1 fastball in the game by run value last year. Erod, so signed there for a long-term deal. He's kind of been middle of the road. Let's go look at Erod. The rest of the rotation obviously is not what it used to be either. Fott, Jarvis, and Mena are currently penciled in there. So, okay, so we are going to go look at, who did I just say? Is my brain that slow today? Where is it? Oh, Erod, my former Red Sox teammate. When his command is right, he will have some games, some performances that are just unfair, but the command hasn't been right the past few years, and you see the result. 5.04 in 24 in the 10 starts, and 5.02 in the 29 starts. So this has been basically a disaster for the Diamondbacks to date, but I think he's got 2 more years on his deal, so they're going to have to live with it. For him, it comes down to command, and I mentioned, when he's going right, he puts the ball wherever he wants. He knows how to pitch. He knows his game. This isn't a great ballpark for him because it's a fast infield with big gaps in the outfield, so the contact outs aren't there. But they're hoping that he has a bounce back here and can throw some strikes and get himself back going the way he usually does. Because when he does, like when he pitches well, like go look at 2023, he's a lot closer to league average in everything. There's a lot of nibbling going on. It's a very tunnel-filled type of arsenal. As you see, most of the stuff has similar movement. The changeup, the sinker, the four seam, it's all subtle differences. And then he's got these 2 tiny little breaking balls. So because he doesn't have huge action on his pitches, he's got less margin for error with contact, and he has to be really fine with his command, which he can be. Hopefully now he got himself under his, got a healthy year under his belt, and he can come back like gangbusters this year because they're going to need him. The Diamondbacks are in a bad spot, I'd say, in the rotation at the moment. Nelson, Rodriguez, Fott, that's fine, but they need to reunite with like a Gallen or a Merrill Kelly. And then this is the big elephant in the room too. They spent huge on this guy last year, Mr. Corbin Burns. When was the date of his surgery? 6/11/25. Man, good time in a way to have a surgery if you're a player, because that realistically means they're not really expecting you back next year unless it's the very end of the year. So you're probably going to get 2 off seasons plus a full season to recover. So you should be 1,000% healthy by the time 2027 rolls around. But man, they'd love to have him in this rotation now. And if they had him in there, they'd be looking a lot better. You put Corbin Burns at the top of this. Well, now you're looking at maybe messing around with 1 spot. Instead, it's probably 2 spots. Bryce Jarvis is fine, but I don't think they want him every day in their rotation. They want him more as a swingman, and he's more of a depth piece at the moment. Let's go look at Ryan Nelson for a second, because a lot of people didn't realize how kind of sneaky nasty this guy was last year. In the NL West, 3.39 and 23 starts, 33 games overall. But look at this number. This is what I was talking about. 23 run value on the 4-seam. The league hit 207 off of his 4-seam with only a 281 WOBA. That's like really, really hard to do, especially when he throws his 4-seam this high of a percentage of the time, 62% of the time. So they know it's coming. And they still really don't do much against it. So I don't know. Will this approach continue to work? I mean, what's the movement on this heater that's so special? There it is, 19.2 inches of vert. So special level of vert. That's what's saving him right now. But another guy that they'd like to find probably a few more weapons for him to use. Where's the arm angle at for Ryan Nelson? 53. So actually, this is sort of similar to Dylan Cease, where we were looking at before. That straight over the top kind of approach. And another guy looking for probably more weapons to add to his arsenal. But I'm not in love with this rotation right now at all, looking at it. And with Burns out, the question is, like, do you really feel like you have the team to compete this year? I don't know if they do. They probably won't punt on it. But this rotation's suspect. The bottom of the order is suspect. And then the bullpen is completely suspect. Saul Frank, Thompson, Ginkel, Dre Jameson, Juan Murillo throws hard, Garcia, Andrew Hoffman, Gus Varland. It's just kind of slapped together. Expect them to make some complementary depth moves here. A big couple losses here are these two guys, Martinez and Puck. Martinez just got signed to an extension during last season or right before last season, so he's out. He got Tommy John in the middle of the summer as well, so you might get him back at the very end of this year, maybe not. Puck, same deal, although it's an internal brace, so he should come back a little quicker. But they would look a lot better with these two guys on their staff. So you're looking at really three of your three best pitchers on a pitch-by-pitch basis not pitching this season. Burns, Martinez, and Puck. That's scary. For me, this would be an opportunity to reset. If you're over the tax, I don't really know what their situation is or whether they need to cut payroll a little bit or whether they need to trade a guy that maybe a year from now won't fit their roster to bring in some more fresh blood. I'd be tempted to do it. That's probably why Ketel Marte's been out there. He's in the prime of his career. A lot of teams are going to have interest in him. Let's go look at Ketel for a second. And the thought process being this, you could use this year as kind of an in-between year and then jump right back in. But yeah, when your numbers look like this, every team's going to want you. 32 years old, 893 OPS, 930 the year before, 840 the year before. That's consistency. He's a switch hitter. He's a dog. I don't know about his personality much. I know there was some issue this year. I didn't really get a great read on that. But this is the guy that every team would want. You know, I think about like Toronto, who just lost Bichette. They could be in on this. You know, Red Sox could be in on this. A lot of the big teams, honestly. So it'd be interesting to see if anything ends up happening here with Ketel Marte. I don't think they would ever trade Corbin Carroll at this stage, or probably Perdomo either. But they have some pieces, but it's just they're in an awkward spot. If they're going to compete this year, they're going to need guys to take a step forward. Gabriel Moreno, definitely Jordan Lawler. So let's go look at Jordan Lawler for a second. Because he came up, he was a huge prospect, and he really, really struggled that first dose of the big leagues last year. They only brought him back for another 74 plate appearances, and he struggled again. I mean, 478 career OPS and 108 career plate appearances. Prospect lists, I believe, still have him quite high. Let me go look at the Diamondbacks. I don't even know if he's still on the prospect list anymore. All right. Ryan Waldschmidt, Slade Caldwell, Kason Cunningham was the recently drafted shortstop. So they have some guys, but they seem a little bit of ways away. Tommy Troy, who is a Stanford guy, I believe, should be coming. He's a middle infielder type. So there's a reason if they like Tommy Troy, they could maybe live without Marte. But I don't know. Marte on a very team-friendly contract, too. So that's the other thing, too. When you're on a team-friendly contract, then the return might be massive. So that's something to consider. Whenever you're in a losing scenario, but you have somebody with huge value, you have to think about it. You know, that's why we talked about Skeens, and now we're in Marte. And I think you roll this team out there, they'll probably be around 500, but they're going to have to do more with that rotation if they want to compete. And it's just a question of are they ready to or not, you know? And the Drew Jones pick has not worked out so well either. So, what else we got? Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers are part of the equation too. The Dodgers, and I think it's just mainly the Dodgers. I mean, look, it's not that there's not plenty of playoff spots to go around. There are. It's just you have to think, do you have a realistic chance of going through 4 playoff rounds, right? I'm not sure. It feels like they have a lot to do to get to that point. So, yeah, look at this. Drew Jones is now all the way down to number 14 in the system. Andrew Jones' son. Didn't swing much last year. Special defender and center, which makes sense given his pedigree. But I don't know. I'm not going to give up on a Drew Jones top talent type of guy yet. But yeah, a little disappointing that he hasn't shot up and he's not a clear number 1 still on this list. So I don't know. Diamondbacks, I think they're at a little bit of a tough choice here. I mean, at 80 and 82, with 3 teams ahead of them in the standings last year, they have to kind of make a decision here. To compete, they're going to have to probably spend some money or make a daring trade. And I'm not totally sure that they're going to be willing to do that. If I were them, I don't think I would. I wouldn't feel as confident about my chances this year. Now, maybe they can bottom feed and they can end up with a lot better pitching than it looks right now. But this pitching staff is not a playoff pitching staff at the moment. Nelson, Rodriguez, Fod, Jarvis, Maina in the rotation. Saul, Frank, Thompson, Ginkel, Jameson, Murillo, Garcia, Hoffman, Varland. That's definitely a bottom-end pitching staff at the moment. So they're going to have to do a lot moving forward. And I guess that's it for the D-backs. Number of guys, team-friendly deals. It would be hard for them to punt those years away. Waiting for 27 trades makes sense. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I would be making trades too. I mean, we don't know everything, like what their budget's going to be. We can go look at like Spotrac. And I can like quickly pull up the Diamondbacks and just see what it says here. So here's the projected numbers. Projected tax space, 65 million under the tax. 94 under, I don't know. There's projected tax space, okay. Projected tax space. That's after the ARB salary. So they should have, if they want to go all the way up to the tax, they have room to do it. This is money to spend, but they don't usually spend up to that level. So you can talk about that all you want, but they're not really the team that usually does that. Let's look at their guaranteed deals here. Burns, Rodriguez. I think the Rodriguez deal definitely hurt them a little bit, that he struggled. Marte, Gurriel. Did I even mention Gurriel? He's a good player. Carroll, Perdomo, Fott, Martinez, Thompson, Puck. And then the rest down here are all minimums guys. All right, that's it for the Diamondbacks. Let's move forward. And yeah, D-backs need pitching. That's to say the least. To say the least. This is another important thing to note from Spectre here, who I know is excited about the Dodgers, who are coming up next. He's going to get his 10-5 right soon, so then he can drive the trade. So this happened with Tulowitzki when I was with the Rockies. He was very close to getting 10-5. The Rockies felt like they were going to trade him. They didn't want him to drive the trade because he was going to point himself to one or two teams. They go ahead and get out ahead of it, and they end up trading him to Toronto. So sometimes teams do this, and they worry about this. They don't like players driving the trade. So we'll see. All right, that's it for D-backs. We are on to the defending champion, two-time defending champion Los Angeles Dodgers, 93 and 69 last year, which was considered a bad regular season for them, just showing how ridiculous of a season this ended up being. And I laughed about it before the postseason. I said they had a chance to do something funny, which was frustrate their fan base the entire year and then still win the whole thing. And that's exactly what happened. All right, let's look at the expiring contracts and the free agents that they have at the moment. Miggy Rowe, World Series hero. Evan Phillips, who they non-tendered because he's probably not going to pitch this season, so somebody's going to have to sign him to a 2-year deal where they probably rehab him for the 1 year, and we'll see how that goes. This is a good point out really quick, circling back to the Diamondbacks. Gurriel has the torn ACL. So he's going to miss a lot of time this year, and that's another reason why I think if I'm them, I'm more on the C side of not competing. But anyway, we'll keep going. All right, here we go. Michael Kopech, who didn't really pitch or didn't pitch the whole year, he's out. Kirby Yates, all things considered, probably didn't get what they wanted out of him in that signing. Tony Gonsolin, who's been a long-time Dodger. Kike, who, hopefully they bring him back just because it just seems right, but we'll see. Austin Barnes, Andrew Haney, and Conforto. So those are the losses, and here is the lineup at the moment. You have Shohei leading off, Mookie, and Freddie. That's the other big three. I mentioned the Diamondbacks' big three. It's the Dodgers' big three. This is just crazy. All MVPs. Will Smith, game-winning home run in the World Series. He's locked in. Muncy, they picked up his option. He's good. Teoscar's back for the second year of his deal. There's probably a chance they could move him if they're going to upgrade there, but pretty damn good player. They've won with him. Tommy Edman is back. Pages, who had the weird year, was great early, was bad late, then got hot again, then didn't really, they had to take him out of the lineup in the postseason, but then yet still made his presence felt, with that catch or whatever. And then as of right now, Haesung Kim is projected as the second baseman. All right, looking at this lineup, who else do they have? Anybody injured that I'm forgetting about in this lineup? And then while we're at it, let me just pull up the Dodgers' top prospects real quick. Yeah, Zaire Hope is a big one coming, right? And Jose DePaula. DePaula is a big-time prospect, I believe. So I know a lot of people have been calling for Tucker. A lot of people feel like Tucker is the move here in the outfield. Oh, he barely got there. He was only in Double-A for like one game. He's pretty young, this guy, 20 years old. Zaire Hope, is this more of the same? How long did he play? He actually played in Double-A for 6 games. These are the two really, really young outfield guys, plus Edgar Quintero. So 3 outfield guys. Alex Freeland's been in the big leagues a little bit. Mike Sirota, former Northeastern Husky, who was supposed to be a first-rounder, and kind of fell out of the draft a little bit. He's another possible outfield guy. So they actually have some serious outfield upside coming. River Ryan is a guy that they're hoping to get back off injury. All right. Let's see here. Kike they might sign when the IL opens up. That's true. Tucker is unlikely because he wants a long term, but the Dodgers probably want a short term. See, that's what I'm reading too. Based on the outfield depth that's coming, I'd be surprised if they wanted to commit a really long deal to Tucker. But I think if his market kind of fell apart and he was a huge AAV, I could see him fitting. But then you got to figure out what to do with Teoscar. I think they'll probably run most of this lineup back, would be my guess. There's probably room because they're always opportunistic, but we'll see. Yeah, and then Tommy Edman has the ankle surgery situation. So I'm not sure if he'll be opening day ready. If not, I guess Pages would be your center fielder. Yeah, the bottom 3 spots are definitely questionable here. Edman had the ankle surgery. Pages, who looked good, but then tailed off a little bit. I think they'll still have conviction in him. And then Kim, we haven't really seen him as an everyday option yet. Let's look at Pages. I have not heard this. I know Kyle Tucker a little bit. He seems like a good ball, like a guy who really cares a lot. I haven't heard this yet. I mean, then again, I don't know him that well, but I'd be surprised if he was in the Rendon type of spot, but I guess we'll see. Edmund should be playing second base, Pages in right, Teo in left. And then, okay. And then you're looking for a center fielder? Or is Alex Call still around? Scouted Sirota in college, Northeastern guy, rough draft year, but really could take off with Dodgers. Yeah, he was supposed to be a high draft pick and struggled his draft year. Trading Buxton would make a lot of sense for them if that's actually on the table. I mean, yeah, if they could go get a true center fielder, that would be crazy. But it looks like they have the farm to maybe pry somebody away if they want to. The question is, do they want to? And that would be an interesting thing. And a lot will probably depend on Tommy Edman. I would agree with that. All right, so here's Pages. The overall, I don't think this is happening with Seager. I know that this has been talked about a little bit. Obviously, then you can move Mookie back to the outfield. I guess that would be the move, right? And then, I don't know. I just don't necessarily see it. I mean, I know Seager was a Dodger and everything, and there's excitement maybe from the fan base. Let me go back to their lineup here. You'd have to move some pieces around if that's happening. But I also think Texas, I know they made some moves to cut, but I think they're still planning on trying to win. The Nimmo move was not like we're losing, try to not losing type. That's not a losing type of move. So that'll be interesting to note. The bench is solid. The bench has been solid for a few years. They kind of know how to use their bench. So that's fine. I don't necessarily see the Seager thing. And honestly, like, I don't really know what I would do if I were this team. I guess I would think about the last 4 spots, including the Teoscar spot. Can I upgrade from that, or am I happy with that? Obviously, the defense is a little bit of an issue there, but he's a good hitter. That showed up in the postseason a little bit. But yeah, these bottom 3 spots, considering Edman's hurt, really it's the bottom 2. And Pages, I don't see any reason not to keep believing in him. Kim didn't get a lot of opportunities, right? Yeah, I mean, he didn't hit much, but he only got 161 at-bats. He's fast. He was more of a pinch runner type. He's super jacked, but I don't really know what any of this means. So we're waiting and seeing on him. All right. In the rotation, hold on one sec. Let me answer this. Given your player background, how would a player like Mookie react if they tell him to move back to right field? I think at this point he wants to play short, at least for another few years until he feels like maybe he's not the best option there anymore. But he was a Gold Glove finalist this year. I have no idea how he would react. I'm sure if they were really on close to getting a guy like Corey Seager, they'd probably come and talk to him. You know, they'd probably come and talk to him. And then I guess you'd have to figure that out. I know Mookie's all about winning, but we would have to see. So I don't know. Don't see them investing 2 seasons on best of shortstop just to put him back there, especially as he gets older, and the experimentation seems to have worked. Yeah, I mean, I think, would it make them a better team to send him back to right field and have a comparable shortstop? Yeah, because he's a Gold Glove right fielder, and this, to Spector's point here, outfield defense needs to improve. Jose DePaula, a shot in spring training. I mean, he's only 20 years old. If the talent's that high, then maybe. But I don't know. The big thing about a team like this, and similar to the Mets, when you have this many players on their roster that are assets, you can do some creative shit. You can do some wild stuff, but why would you shake it up too much when they just won? And this is talking about Pages. A lot of teams would be over the moon and get 27 home runs and elite defense from the 24-year-old center fielder. People are just down on him because they watched him in the postseason struggle. He's still a big piece. I think he'll be fine. Now, here's an option. Dodgers could package rushing and other players for Kwan. Smith blocks rushing. Going to cost a lot because Kwan's got 2 years of control left. Thoughts? I love Steven Kwan so much, I would like him on any winning team. Where does he fit on this roster? Yeah, I mean, I guess he would play left. Pages would go to center. You know, they'd move it around a little bit. Edman can come back to second base, you know, whatever. And I love Kwan on any roster. I just think, man, Cleveland, if they really dangle Kwan, you're going to get a big-time offer for him, in my opinion. So I'll be curious to see if they could do that. All right, let's get to the pitchers who, I mean, it's hard to be in a better spot than this. You got Yoshi as your ace, World Series MVP. All he does is win. Blake Snell, who was fantastic in the second half and through the postseason. Glasnow, who was really good, kind of half healthy, half not, but went on the mound really good. And then there's Shohei, who I expect the situation will be the same with Shohei. I already saw that he's only going to DH in the WBC. I'm pretty sure they're going to build him up probably similar, maybe a little bit more pitching than last year, but something similar. There's no need for him to throw 200 innings every year. It's more about making sure you get a really good 80 to 100 innings and into the postseason. So I expect more of that, and that will allow them to have Sheehan in the rotation. And then the really big question is what you do with Sasaki. All of a sudden, he was your closer at the end of the year. He looked great in the closer role. Do they continue down the starter path with him? Probably, but it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do here, honestly. In the starter depth spots, they actually have some guys, I believe, that are coming back. River Ryan, Roboleski, I guess, is still technically a starter. Gavin Stone, Landon Eck, like they have plenty of depth pieces, and they're one of the best teams I've ever seen at kind of managing these workloads and kind of getting a million guys through there. Even Bobby Miller, can he get back into a good place? Man, he looked great at times, and then he looked awful at times, and he got hit in the head with a line drive in spring. So we'll wait and see on Bobby Miller. But they have some dudes there. What did I say about their pitching at the top? Jackson Ferris. One of the best left-handers in the 2022 prep class. Overall, he got a 55 scouting grade, 92, 95 touches, 97. Man, he looked good last year. This guy's probably coming pretty soon, knowing the Dodgers, the way they go ahead with things. Wouldn't surprise me if this is a dude, because the Dodgers just don't miss, you know? So, I don't know. We'll watch a couple clips of him throwing just for fun. But, God, they're in such a good spot, huh? They have the ability to mix and match, but going for the three-peat is legendary status. So we'll see if they can actually accomplish it. And the question is, you know, what are the shrewd moves to make when you've won twice in a row? You know you have a lot of winning pieces on your roster. It looks like it's a little bit of a low slot upshoot here. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I got this being a low slot somewhat with some good velo for a lefty. I'd love to see him a little bit more of him in the future, but they have some guys coming, as I mentioned. All right, back to that rotation. They do as good a job as anybody at limiting these workloads throughout the year. Yoshi was the main guy who pitched all year last year, but they just don't panic in this spot. They're really good at making sure they have guys towards the end of the year ready to go. And I mentioned all those depth pieces. So they're going to mix and match with the rotation. I don't really think they're going to do anything here. I really don't. I think they're going to ride with this. If they do trade out of it, it would be Glass now. And to get another piece. And if they were to trade Glass now, it'd probably be just because they'd be worried about his injury stuff moving forward. But yet he still has, obviously, top tier potential. I mean, he's a World Series starter for you. In the bullpen, Tanner Scott looking for a big bounce back year. Wouldn't be surprised if he did that. Vesia, who we haven't seen since the CS, he was outstanding back-to-back years. Trinan, you're still married to him. They were still trusting him for the majority of the playoffs. He'll be back in the picture. So will Banda. This is a huge guy to get back. Gratterall. I mean, Gratterall was basically hurt all year last year. He's had a bunch of arm injuries. This has always been one of the concerns with the... What do they call him again? I don't know. He looks like a Tasmanian devil to me. He's just about the most jacked guy I've ever seen. La Bazooka? That's one of the best names I've ever heard. The Bazooka. I mean, but look at the numbers. He had a 1.20 ERA in 68 games in 23. This guy's a dog. Throws cheese, short stride, great cutter, great sinker, tremendous athlete. They just got to keep him on the field. So he's a guy to keep on the field. Dreyer showed well. Klein, World Series hero. Kasparius could be another guy that could maybe get himself back into the rotation this year with some starts. They don't have a single weakness with their pitching staff. I think if anything, you just got to watch out for creating more depth here. Continuing to create that cushion so your top-end guys don't need to carry the load the whole year if they're tired or, worn out a little bit from their long playoff runs. And then you go ahead and gear up again for another playoff run down the line. Because there's no way this team doesn't make the postseason. They could coast to the postseason with this roster. Shoulder debridement surgery late in the season. So Brock Stewart, he's not coming back anytime soon. So yeah, I would focus on maybe some lineup stuff. Is there a big swing that they can make that they really like and they can't live without it, like a Buxton trade, or if they're really that high on Tucker, I don't know. But yeah, they got to figure out, maybe they have one outfield spot to play with, but this is the gold standard of a team, right? They have it all. They have depth. They have a good farm system. The pitching is ridiculous. It's kind of crazy. They need 2 relief pitchers and a center fielder. Pajes should really be in right field long term. A trade for Buxton makes so much sense until Quintero is ready. This is even a team that could use a defensive-minded center fielder in all reality. It wouldn't have to be a great hitter. Bader could maybe fit. I don't know. I'd be curious who they value. It's so interesting. Imagine getting a phone call from the Dodgers this offseason. You're a position player, and they're like, hey, we want to sign you to play center field every day for our team. Regardless of the offer, that's going to feel pretty damn good because you're like, I'm joining a back-to-back championship team. I'm going to be surrounded by greatness. I'm probably a lot of that's going to rub off on me. Maybe that's what Conforto was thinking and it didn't work out, but that's what I'd be thinking. Like, I'm going to be on the team. I can freaking hide out in the bottom of this order and ambush some guys for some dingers. It would be exciting to be a guy in the bottom of this order, just kind of laying in the weeds when everybody's so worried about those top 5 or 6. So I don't know. I love their chances to three-peat. It's probably one of the hardest things to do. Repeating is obviously one of the hardest things to do. So there's a lot to go with, but they're in a great spot to do it. Yeah, this is the worry about Bazooka, is that he's been very injury-prone, and I don't think his rehab is going great. And then people are worried about Edwin Diaz being the sign here. If they do try to go big-time relief pitcher, yeah, I mean, they could go big-time righty closer guy. So Williams, Suarez, take him from the Padres, that would hurt, or Edwin would fit here if they're going to make a move. That would be a good one, a high-end reliever. I could definitely see that. And a lot of people are saying that Rushing is the guy to trade. He's not going to play anyway. He's got prospect value. I could see that. And a lot of times teams mess this up. They have a guy who has real value, but they try to hold on to him, and then he doesn't play enough, and he kind of turns into a raisin in the sun. Kind of like just doesn't play, and then next thing you know, he's older. He doesn't have the same shine on him. So that could be the possibility. Could see Bader there for sure. I could see that fit. I really could. It could be a stopgap, but he would play every day, and he would love it out there. Any thoughts on the complaints that the MLB seems to be allowing the Dodgers exclusivity to promote in Japan? So I've read a little bit about a marketing firm in Japan that kind of works with lockstep with the agency for some of these big time Japanese guys, the agencies. And yeah, I mean, it's not an MLB thing. They're not breaking any rules, but they have been pulled. They have a couple of these big time talents, and Shohei, Yoshi, and Sasaki have been pulled on the Dodgers, mainly because I think there's like a brand name there that appeals in Japan. There's a time difference thing that makes more sense for the games to be watched overseas in Japan, as well as if they're all pooled on one team, there's some unique marketing opportunities as well. Other teams are going to be upset about this, but there's nothing prohibiting other teams from having done this. So it would have been interesting. It's just interesting that they've had this situation, but it's also really smart. Like they took advantage of an entire country's fan base. Let's see. Please, no Diaz. No more money to relief pitchers. It builds up too quick. That is true, and he's asking for a lot of years, and that might be the rub here. But I think you could get Suarez on a 2 or 3 year deal. I think you can get Devin Williams. I think there's a lot of options here, but expect them to add some sort of nasty right-handed relief pitcher at some point. So I think that's kind of it for the Dodgers. I don't really know what else to cover with them. They're in a great spot, I guess get Mookie going offensively. They'd be even more dangerous, and I guess they can really think a little bit about this Teoscar spot. Let me get back. Let me look at Teoscar for a second. See, I think Devin Williams would be a great fit here. And here's Teoscar. He hit 25 home runs, 738 OPS. I mean, he had an 840 the previous year, so that's a big drop off. He wasn't as effective all around, but he did produce at times in the postseason with some homers. This is the real fear, the -9 outs above average in right field when they're used to having Mookie out there before he moved to short. So they used to have a really good right fielder, and then they had usually a good shortstop. So their defense has suffered with him out there. Who knows if they're ready to pull the plug on that or not, but that would be probably the secondary reason why. I mean, you could see that he could possibly bounce back hitting, but the defense thing is a little bit sketchy. So I don't know. And am I definitely not? Hold on. All right, that's it for the Dodgers. Nothing else on the Dodgers. I don't think Imai signs with this team. It looks like he's pretty much been vocal saying he won't be a Dodger. So we'll move on to a team that I could see him going to, which is your San Francisco Giants. Buster Posey runs this squad. They just signed Vitello as the manager. This is a totally new world now for the Giants, and they're going to go ahead and try to take on the task of taking on the Dodgers, which is something that they've done really in their whole existence, but they have fallen behind a little bit recently. They finished at 500 last year. Obviously, that's not good enough. Here are their free agents: Verlander, Dom Smith, Kisner, Lucchesi, Flores, Scott Alexander, Tom Murphy. So they're not losing a ton here. Verlander was pretty good in the second half. Dom Smith was okay. Here's the lineup at the moment: Jung-Hoo Lee, Willie Adames, Rafael Devers, Matt Chapman, Helio Ramos. Love the top 5. Bryce Eldridge is the huge, gigantic prospect. And then the bottom 3, Schmidt hasn't really hit. Bailey hasn't hit at all, but he's the best catcher in the game. And then Luis Matos, who I don't believe has hit either. Let me see Matos. Everybody's saying Imai goes to San Fran. It's like the perfect fit. I kind of agree, but we're going to see in a second. Yeah, here's Luis Matos, who was a huge prospect when he came up. Has not happened yet at the big league level. Also hasn't gotten consistent playing time yet, but his career high OPS so far is 690. He does have a cannon from the outfield, but -6 outs above average. So a lot of red flags on a young player here, which is odd. So I expect them to be active for sure in the outfield market. I mean, shit. Kyle Tucker? Bellinger? They got some, they could go big game hunting. This is a very wealthy team. It's weird to have a rookie penciled in as DH, but I like the top 5 a lot, and I wouldn't take Bailey out of this team. But offensively, yeah, they could use a little bit of a middle infield upgrade, like at second base. So maybe one infielder, one outfielder. I could see that. A lot of folks have made a good case for Scherzer to the Giants based on his friendship with Vitello. Yeah, I could see that too. They were together at Missouri back in the day. On a 1-year deal would not surprise me at all. Show everyone Buster Posey means business and Amai and a chance to take them down. The whole system is set up to get Amai and it just fits. Why go anywhere else? I mean, he could go to a New York team, Yankees or Mets, who will be very good, or Red Sox or Blue Jays. I mean, there's a bunch of places he could go, but I think he would look great on this Giants team, and it does make a lot of sense if he's wanting to go head-to-head with the Dodgers. So, all right, let's go to – they also have Drew Gilbert as an outfielder as well, who's kind of working in here as a potential – maybe could make the jump to being an everyday player. All right, rotation. Logan Webb, love that. Robbie Ray, like that. Bottom 3, So work to be done in the rotation for sure. Amai, Scherzer, they're gonna have a lot of pick. They could go big here. I would like Michael King on this team. I would like Zach Gallen on this team. And then here's the bullpen. Ryan Walker, Peguero, Miller, Buto, Bivens, Gage, Henches, Brubaker. So they have to remake the bullpen outside of Walker, who wasn't as good last year. I expect them to make some moves in the bullpen as well. So it's pitching. It's all pitching. This guy was their best guy, Randy Rodriguez, as a rookie for a while. Ended up getting Tommy John at the end of the year, so he's out. Let's go look at the top prospects for the Gigantes. Eldridge is that number 1. Gavin Killen is the number 3. He was just drafted out of Tennessee. That's a Vitello guy. Carson Wisenhunt was a guy who got called up late in the year. They did get Blade Tidwell in the trade from the Mets, a guy who I wasn't very high on after watching him. But he's got a big league arm, might be a reliever, but he'll be on the team at some point. Doesn't look like they have a ton of high-end pitching coming, so I expect them to spend on it, basically. A little bit. I think this is the time. So I think Amai would be my top target. Michael King, Zach Gallen, all those are the 3 I'd probably be in on. I mean, there's others, but I could see a Luke Weaver fit here in the bullpen, multi-inning guy that maybe they want to try back starting. They could really use a closer, get Ryan Walker back to matching up with his action. He's been fine versus lefties, but he's always going to be devastated versus righties. What else we got here in the chat? Will Verlander stay? I mean, I know he had a good experience, but no idea. No idea. He's only played for teams with orange, so maybe the Orioles to complete the trifecta. Could see Suarez or Gallen. Oh yeah, Ranger Suarez is another one. Well, they've lost him so far. We will see if they resign him. I'm saying they have to make a decision on that because he's not on the roster currently. That's all. I think people are going to eat up Vitello either way. I think the team's going to buy into his personality right away, no matter what. I'm just excited to watch it play. I'm excited to watch it play. Giants are in a kind of a weird place. A lot of meh around the roster. I feel, though, with Vitello, they're trying to change the culture and affect more people. Hey, look, I think they're trying, and I think this year they will take steps forward. So I expect them to be aggressive and have a better team and probably at least be shooting for a wild card spot. And then they'll know exactly what to target to go after the Dodgers if they need to. How many pitchers benefit significantly from pitching in San Fran? Quite a bit, although I think the park factor has come back to earth just a bit. Oracle Park. I mean, it's still a below average hitting park, but I mean, it used to be devastating. It's pretty good for hits. Singles, doubles, and triples is just 84th percentile in homers, but 103rd for hits. So if you're a contact hitter, this ballpark is a good spot for you. But you got to remember, it's cold, it's windy. You play a lot of low-scoring, sloppy games at this ballpark, and I think it's a really good place. Really good place to pitch. I always felt like it was. Maybe not quite as much now as it used to be. But yeah, I think they're in the market for 1 to 2 starters and 1 to 2 good relievers, if not more, and some more depth pieces. So Buster has a lot of work to do this offseason, no doubt about it. Eldridge is a guy that I'm very curious to watch as we move forward. Oh yeah, Marco Luciano, Joey Weimer's on this team now. Here's some of these pitchers that have shown a little bit. Wynn's been up there a little bit. Birdsong, Seymour, and then there's Wizenhunt and Tidwell. These are kind of this is the depth at the moment, but I expect them to be pretty aggressive. So they've struggled with their draft a little bit. That'd be tough. Stephen Kwan would be a good fit. Stephen Kwan's a good fit on every team. He really is. I think he would vibe in San Fran, though, for sure. And he'd be sick in the outfield. And his contact game, he'd probably rake. Let me go look at their prospects real quick one more time because I want to look at what it says about Bryce Eldridge. This is a mountain of a man. 6'7", 240. He was a hitter and a pitcher at the 18 and under World Cup. Best two-way talent in the 23 draft. Was the 16th overall pick. Went from A to AAA at 19. Put up big numbers. Obviously, he's a big boy, so he rakes. The biggest question is his defense and his swing and miss. So that's the same with all these monsters. We're just going to have to watch him a little bit. All right. I think that's it for the Giants. I really have nothing else to add. I think they're going to just be a fascinating team to watch. They have room to improve, and they have money to improve, and they have an aggressive president of baseball ops and Buster Posey, which I love. And I think they look at this division as the Padres are going the wrong direction. Diamondbacks might be going the wrong direction. So there's opportunity here to be right in that number 2 spot and definitely be in the postseason. And then, they've been a team that has won out of the wild card spot a few times in the past. I mean, shit, they were down 2-0 to the Reds in like 2010, won that series, ended up winning the entire thing. So the Giants have a history of doing that, and they're a scrappy team generally when they get in. And I also think maybe they'll be even more scrappy with this college style vibe in the dugout. Maybe they'll try some things a little differently. I don't know, I'll be curious to watch. But yeah, you got to feel good about the top 5. I know they're looking for more out of Jung-Hoo Lee, and maybe, Adames Endeavor's going to obviously take a step forward as well. Ramos was better 2 years ago than a year, but you like the talent of the top 5, and then that's your big-time prospect number 6. So, not to say there aren't any things that could go wrong here. There's a lot that could go wrong. Some of these guys could turn into pumpkins, but I think, yeah, they're looking at the landscape of the NL West, and they feel pretty good about it. All right, done with the Giants. Now we're on to the Padres. Padres were the second-place team. They were fighting it out with the Dodgers all year, 90 and 72. Here are the free agents. Cease, he's gone. He signed with the Jays. Ryan O'Hearn, Robert Suarez, Luis Arraez, Michael King, Elias Diaz. They signed back Kyle Hart. Oh my God, Iglesias is gone. Wade is gone. Gurriel is gone. Hayward is gone. Nasty Nestor is gone. So they're losing a lot of major leaguers. Suarez, O'Hearn, Arraez, and King and Diaz were all huge parts of this team. Huge parts of this team. So, that's a lot of losses. What do they have at the moment? Tatis, Merrill, Machado. Love that. Laureano had a great year last year. Sheets was pretty good. Bogey bounced back. Cronenworth was a little down. Fermin, that was a good trade. I like the Fermin trade. And as right now, they have Terso Ornelas as DH. They're in a little bit of a spot. They're looking to sell the team, potentially. Their manager essentially quit. I love Mike Schilt, but now he's going to go work in the Orioles as an advisor of some sort. So he's done. Now they have Craig Stammen in there, who's been around a long time, so that could be a good thing. But they're in a weird spot. I've heard some Tatis stuff being floated out there as a possibility trade-wise. You could do great for him probably, but at the moment, it's still a good team. Tatis, Merrill, Machado, Laureano, Sheets, Bogarts, Cronenworth, Fermin is solid. I mean, definitely room for improvement here, but I don't know what type of money they're going to spend, but that's solid. All right, rotation. Pavetta, who was great. Musgrove coming back off Tommy John. That's good. Randy Vasquez, JP Sears, that's fine. Kyle Hart, that's fine. Those are more 4-5 types, so they could use another good starter. They did just lose 2 huge ones, Cease and King, at the moment, so they're going to have to pony up for that or figure out what they want to do. Another option is moving Mason Miller into the rotation. It's tough to do because he's just put together one of the most dominant stretches of relief pitching that's ever happened. I believe it was 21 games in a row in the regular season plus the 2 in the postseason. So all scoreless with just taking a flamethrower to everybody. I actually have a video on that on the channel if you want to watch that. And then the bullpen has always been a strength for them the last few years, although some of the pieces are gone or hurt. Morihone, who's outstanding. Estrada's outstanding. Morgan, Peralta, Marinaccio's over there now. Bradley Rodriguez, Yuki Matsui. So they have some work to do in the bullpen. One of the things that hurts them big time is Jason Adam being hurt. Don't know when he comes back. He had a quad surgery. I don't know what that looks like. That looks like that could take a little while. Johnny Brito, elbow surgery. He'll probably come back this year, so that gives him another pitcher. Yu Darvish being out for the year, that sucks. But he wasn't really high end anymore. He would have filled him more in the middle. So they're at a crossroads here. They haven't done anything yet this offseason, and I'm not sure what they're going to do. I mean, they have a team probably, if they rolled it out there, good enough to compete for a postseason spot. But they would like to have some more pitching, and maybe they could use another bat. I mean, they have Terso Ornelas right now at first base, which is obviously not super duper high end. Let's go look at their prospect situation. Salas is the one we've heard about forever. He's still only 19 in Double-A, so he's coming. Cruz Schoolcraft, I liked a lot out of this year's draft. He's an awkward throwing lefty. Wonder if we have any video on him. He throws super strange. But I felt like his projection was cool when I was looking at him. Yeah, this Jason Adam injury was horrible. I mean, torn quad muscle, that's unique and very scary. You just don't see a lot of that in baseball. All right, here we go. Here's Cruz Schoolcraft, who could be a quick mover. He's out of high school, but very projectable. Actually, not a weird delivery. I'm thinking of somebody else, but that's a nice little simple. He's got a good changeup, if I recall. So no wonder he's a big prospect for them, and he'll be coming. And the Padres do pretty well developing their guys. I would say overall, they've always had a lot of prospects that have graduated to the big leagues or become trade pieces over the past, 5-6 years. Preller is definitely one of the best scouts in the business as a GM. So anyway, there's a guy that's an interesting guy. Cruz Schoolcraft. Miguel Mendez made it up there. Bradley Rodriguez. Here's the Terso Ornelas. He's number 11. He's got 50 hit, 50 power, so he's a hit guy. Curious to see if they actually give him some run here, if they go ahead and try to upgrade this. You think Adam will be back early next year? Jason Adam off a torn quad? Wow. If he is, that's great. That's a huge boon for the team. So we'll see. Salas missed the entire year. That sucks. He's still the number 1 prospect. Super young. It's going to be interesting to see him. Yeah, 2025. He only got in 10 games. So we'll have to wait and see on him. He's the big prospect, but I don't know. Does trading Tatis make sense from the Padres standpoint? Because if I was the Yankees, I'd offer them anything. It only makes sense based on factors that we don't know anything about on this live stream, like what type of money they really want to spend on their payroll, the status of their selling the team, things like that. That's stuff that we don't have we're not privy to. But if they need to reset, this would be a good guy. He's relatively team friendly in terms of the cost, and he's an electric player. I mean, unbelievable outfielder. You put him in the middle of any lineup. Big teams would be after Tatis for sure. But yeah, it's an incomplete team. It's a team with a lot of talent, but they're definitely incomplete. The pitching needs to improve a lot, especially the starting in terms of depth and even high end. I mean, really, you don't know what you're necessarily getting. Musgrove this year coming back. So I don't know. If I were them, you have to really have a good evaluation of where your farm system's at right now, what's happening behind the scenes with the sale of the team, et cetera, et cetera. Figure out what to do. Tatis has a no trade clause as well, so you'd be having to convince him to go wherever you want to line him up, which would be tough. I have a feeling Preller's going to have to dip into an early thin prospect pool to get to some starting pitching. I don't think the Padres will spend much. So yeah, they're going to have to get a little creative in this spot if they want to compete. This offer's been thrown out by Drew Thorpe here. Warren, Dominguez, and Lombard Jr. for Tatis. Man, trading Lombard Jr., that's a big trade. He's moved up. His people have thought very highly of George Lombard Jr. now with the Yankees. Will Warren would fit a need, and these teams have certainly hooked up on trades before. Dominguez. Maybe that's not a terrible package. Be curious to see. Padres might want to cut some costs with the potentially new ownership. Trading Tatis currently has most value. So that's the thought process. The easy man has seen it. He sees what I'm seeing, and maybe they do. They're going to be a team to watch. They are a wild card in this market because there are big time outfielders in this market. But you put Tatis in there on the trade market, that's going to shake some shit up. So. Curious to watch him play. Curious to watch Craig Stammen's first year. Curious to watch Pivetta in year 2 over there. And fascinating to watch this continue to evolve. Really curious what they do with Mason Miller. Will they make Mason Miller into a starter? I mean, dude, he's like the ultimate weapon now out of the bullpen, so it's tough. But I do think he has the pitch to do it. Now, this changeup, he didn't throw many of them until the very end of the year, but they are nasty. And I could see a world in which if he developed that a little bit more, maybe even a sinker, he could be a 4-5 pitch pitcher pretty quickly. And he did have starts just 2 years ago for the A's, so it's not like it's impossible. But it's risky because right now he's the best reliever in baseball in a way. So, I don't know. It's a risky move, but you never know. All right, Padres. I have them going the wrong direction right now and have the Giants going up, actually. But I think it's close at the moment, but I just think in terms of where each organization is, I could see the Padres making some unexpected teardowns here, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Which brings us to our last team, which is a team very close to my heart, and that is the Colorado Rockies, who obviously had a horrible year last year, 43 and 119. Probably the worst season in the history of the franchise. Actually, definitely the worst season in the history of the franchise. Their run differential was the worst in the history of baseball. Here are the free agents: Marquez, Tyro Estrada, Gomber, Arcia, Farmer, and Stallings. And here's the lineup right now. Tovar, Moniak was good. Goodman was good. Jordan Beck, Brenton Doyle, they need him to bounce back. Right now they have Troy Johnston pencils in at first. Karros, Veen, Amador. This is going to be a complete teardown situation. DePodesta gets the gig. He's going to go in there. He's going to look at more than just the roster, but there's no way they're expecting to compete this year. The idea is to look around this team, figure out what assets have value, what you can get back, what makes sense to keep, what makes sense to not keep, and kind of restart for a new era of Rockies baseball. They have some pieces here. Brenton Doyle is one of the best defensive outfielders in baseball, and 2 years ago when he made more contact, he was exceptional. He's a wild card. Tovar, really good defender, has had some injury issues, but generally a steady big league shortstop for sure. Moniak bounced back, but I don't think he has a ton of value out there. Goodman is an interesting guy whose numbers are probably inflated by cores, but starting catcher who can hit, good place to be. But yeah, I mean, this lineup is not a Colorado Rocky quality lineup, and obviously they're not going to sign anybody to beef this up for this season. So it's more about getting to know the young guys, figuring out where you can get value off the roster. You look at the rotation. Freeland is the stalwart. He's been there forever. That's fine. You keep rolling with him. And then Dollander is the guy where it's kind of like you have to decide if you think you can develop him or whether you can flip him. He's still got huge value. Teams would salivate to get their hands on Dollander now. Do you think his stuff can play at cores? It's a tough sell. He doesn't have a ton of deception. He's got the ride characteristics on the four seam that are going to be somewhat muted. If you look at his splits, home and road, they were pretty dang drastic. I would love to get my hands on Dollander and work with him as well, because he has such impressive raw ability, but he got crushed at cores this year. That was the biggest issue with him. Let me go to my reference for a second just to illustrate that. Dollander splits this year, home and away, game level, I mean, 9.98 at home at Coors, literally a 10 ERA at Coors and a 3.46 on the road in more innings. So he's a lot closer to that as a true level pitcher. And if I'm looking at that as another team and I'm licking my chops, and if honestly, if I'm DePodesta, I'm already considering moving him. Because I agree with Daniel a little bit here. When they drafted him, I thought it made no sense with his fastball. Even in college, wasn't getting as many whiffs as expected. His home road stats are insane. Yeah, we just looked at him. It's a 26-degree arm angle, so it's slightly low, but that makes the four seam should play, but it's going to be muted there a lot. And there's no, I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to see him somewhere else because right now, I mean, he's going to be going out there with not a good team in a losing situation, and this could get ugly really fast, but he's got value. I'd be already thinking about it. I'd already be thinking about moving him. I'd already be thinking about, because it's just not a winning moment for the Rockies. They're at least 2 years away from feeling good about themselves again. So I don't know. It's tough. And this is also the age-old Rockies situation. So a team offers you a top hitter for a top pitcher, but you know you have no access to top pitchers. So then you have to say to yourself, what do I do? I don't really know. But I think for them, I'd be stripping the roster of most of the assets right now. It's not typically a Rockies thing to do. But, I mean, you just look at it. They're hopeless to compete this year. I know Kyle Karros is a prospect. I know Zach Veen was a prospect with a lot of speed. You got to let some of that play out. You got to evaluate these guys at the big league level a little bit and continue their development at the big league level. I'm glad that they kept on to Warren Schaefer as the manager. He's going to do a good job at the big league level, continuing to develop these guys. He has a development background, minor league managing background, so he's going to do well with a lot of these young guys. But there's going to be some growing pains and a lot of bumpy action this year. Watching the Rock Show for sure. Hunter Goodwin hit more home runs than he did at home. Also, Dollander is crazy for me. He's a good pitcher, but Coors is a horrible place for him. It's kind of how I feel. I just feel like Coors is a bad spot for him. Not that he can't get better at there, and he should and will, but yeah, he's not my ideal archetype for Coors necessarily. Very little deception there. He's a very straightforward type of guy. And this is like another option here, like Dustin May he could sign because he's East-West. But people don't sign with the Rockies when they're looking to rebuild their value, and that's another part of their issue. They just can't convince people to come. I do think they're looking probably at another 100-loss season or close to it, given their division and everything. I mean, I hope not. I love this team, but it's tricky. And yes, my love, we will get lunch. I'm almost wrapping up. This is my last team. I'm targeting. He is young, but he's only 24. I don't know. I guess I'm targeting more people with even less service time, maybe more multiple prospects. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm trying to develop him a little further, and you just try to stick it out. But I have to get to know him a little better. So, I don't know. I have to go back and look at that draft to see who I would have rather than picked. And like Dollander's an outstanding prospect, but I feel like it's a bad fit with the Rockies, if that makes sense. And I feel a little bad for him in a way. All right, like I mentioned, so the rotation, Tanner Gordon and McCade Brown came up at the end of the year, and they're actually okay. So those guys are going to get run because that's the Rockies. Feltner will be back in there. Like, this is what they're going to do, but they're going to need more depth for that. And then in the bullpen, Vodnik, Herget, Halverson are all interesting. Bernardino actually liked the move. He's got some deception to him, an angle to him, which is good. Hale, Agnos, these are guys that kind of came up. You know, they're going to have to mix and match. I've always said that my strategy with the Rockies bullpen would be create the extreme deception squad. You know, different arm angles. I would lean into submariners, side armors, anything that will be uncomfortable at Coors. Just as much as at sea level, I would like to bring in there. It's going to take a lot of different guys, but you can have a dominant season as a relief pitcher there. It's just really hard to do it as a starter. But I think variety is the big key. And then also really with your last 3 spots in your bullpen, you need to be able to churn those roster spots and have length, because there's a lot of times where your game gets blown up early at Coors, and then you have to kind of muscle your way back in there, and you have to have somebody to kind of like hold down the fort for 1 or 2 or 3 innings, and then your team can come back, because comebacks are always possible at Coors. But then you have to have another person to replace him, you know, and kind of roster churn. So that's how I look at it. This was the mistake that really set the organization back was Chris Bryant. He hasn't been healthy at all since been there. Lumbar degenerative disc disease. Not good. Not in a good spot. So that was what really hurt them the most. Let's go look at their top prospects as we wrap this up. Ethan Holiday, they should slow play him and make sure that he's ready before they call him up. Same with Charlie Condon. He was a guy who struggled the first year, did a little better, I believe, this second year. Average dropped off a lot at Hartford, but hit some more home runs. Did have an 800 OPS at AA. So I'm curious to watch him at AA, AAA this year. Charlie Condon. Brody Brecht is a really hard-throwing pitcher. That's an interesting guy to see how they develop him. Jared Thomas is a good outfield prospect. They actually have some guys. I don't mind a lot of these prospects. But if I'm them, I'm looking to kind of, like I said, strip the team of mostly my veteran assets and then kind of let a prospect group develop really well together before adding to it. That would be the next wave of Rockies success. But yeah, it's a problem. It's a little bit of an issue. All right, one guy I wanted to point out really quick was German Marquez is a free agent for the first time. There was a time where if he was a free agent, he would have been a $100 million guy. But then he's got a second Tommy John, came back, struggled mightily the last 2 years for the Rockies. But you go ahead and look at the years prior, he was good. He was an all-star. He was making starts. He was striking guys out. I do think when you're looking at a German Marquez, though, he gives you a little bit of the blueprint of how to maybe succeed at Coors with strikeouts. And the way you do it is by having gyros, sliders, and death balls. You have enough velocity so that your fastball shape gets protected a little bit, which is what German always had. But going back to his dominant years with the Rockies, this is a possible blueprint if it's not through deception. It's through having two dominant breaking pitches. Stuff plus slider, you see that was above average, and the stuff plus knuckle curve, which is really his death ball, which is still remaining a 124 stuff plus pitch. These are the pitches that created the chase below the zone, the extreme depth action. He has enough fastball to make it play, but he's really fallen back with the rest of his other metrics. I mean, he's a below average fastball, sinker, and slider, and changeup pitcher for now. Now, some of these metrics are screwed up because of the Coors effect. He'll be an interesting bounce-back candidate for a team on free agency because I've always felt like this guy's a dog, and he's only 31, and we just simply don't know what he looks like outside of Colorado, but he gives a little bit of the blueprint of how to pitch there and get strikeouts and get whiffs without having deception. It's all about those gyro-type breaking balls, pitches that are less affected by the atmosphere because of the bullet spin, and then they hit the deck with a lot of extreme depth. So that's something that needs to be understood a little bit when looking at the Rockies. All right, one last look through here. Yeah, I mean, it's just hold on for dear life, and if you're DePodesta, you're spending time, kind of fixing what ails the organization behind the scenes, and then continuing to try to be opportunistic with your pro scouting department. That's a big area for the Rockies, picking up free talent all over the place, figuring out how to developing that, deciding what type of pitching talent you want to grab. And for me, it's a deception-based plan, a variety-based plan in terms of different looks and different ways to be effective. So we'll see what they do. They're not a very exciting team for this year, but hopefully the Rockies can get back into it because when they're good, it's great for baseball. So that is it. We have now covered every single team over the past few days. And it's been exciting. It's been fun. We've gone through every single team. When we come back on Monday, we'll start looking at Hall of Fame stuff. I have a bunch of other topics, and we'll get back in there. You can check the thumbnail. Have some information this weekend. But I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. And we're basically gonna wrap it up. Kids are at home. I got a lot of stuff to do, so I got to head back into dad mode now. But a good look at the NL West. Dodgers are king. Giants on the way up. Padres and Diamondbacks are kind of in purgatory, figuring out whether they're trying to hang on to their upswing and their playoff potential or if they're on their way down. You got to figure that out. Rockies are trying to figure it all over. So those are the thoughts on that. And Zinneroth, at the very beginning, we went on about Cease and the Blue Jays. So you can go ahead and rewind, and it's all in there. All right, thank you guys. Happy holidays. Welcome into holiday season as we are now beyond Thanksgiving, and pretty soon it will be winter. And we'll have plenty more to talk about, but that's it for the needs and maybe something exciting will happen and we can break it down on Monday. All right, have a good one, and I will see you guys next time on Baseball and Coffee. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.